My name is Anthony Heyward. I am a student at the City College of the City University of New York, formerly of Borough Manhattan Community College. I graduated in June 2009, and I am currently studying education and English. My start here at the Borough Manhattan Community College really gave me a really good foundation for being passionate about the possibility of activism through education. So I think prior to that, I had a general knowledge of what being a teacher meant, what I could do in a classroom, but after my education here at the Borough Manhattan Community College, it really reinforced some of the ideas that I had about life, about society, about helping students from urban areas who are really struggling. So I've taken that passion and I've started my studies at the City College, where I continue to learn about new and exciting ways where I can help build curriculum, introduce programs, and just work with students on a one-to-one level within the classroom setting to help them overcome some of the disadvantages that they've had. I think the climax of my time at the Borough Manhattan Community College was finding out very recently that I received the honor of having one of my pieces, an essay, actually a memoir. It was accepted to the Nota Bene annual publication. Phi Theta Kappas, the Honor Society for community colleges worldwide, has an annual anthology that they do where they invite students to send in pieces of different types, research papers, essays, poems, any types of work. And I believe you can send up to 3 submissions. And so there was some pretty heavy competition, but it was something that I had been working on for a while. One of the advisors for Phi Theta Kappas, Carlos Hernandez, was my English creative writing professor. So although this piece I had been playing around with it, I was working on it with him during the semester that I submitted it. So it was very fresh. It was something that I felt very strongly about. And I recently got the notice that it was accepted. So actually, it's forthcoming. The books, the actual anthologies, are being sent to me. The piece I submitted is called Granddaddy. Granddaddy is, for me, it's written in the essay format, but it's a memoir. I have an opportunity to tell a story about my grandfather, and I titled it Granddaddy because that was what we called him. My grandfather's name was Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith was the definition of masculinity for me and most of my siblings and my cousins, and he had 6 children and 10 grandchildren, and almost all of them, I will say all of them, have some of the same feelings that I'm expressing. So it was exciting for me to be able to do this because my grandfather never graduated from high school. As a matter of fact, he only made it to the 3rd grade. He was from a different generation, being a man born in the South and a man of color. He didn't have some of the same opportunities that many of us take for granted. So it was very important for him and for my grandmother that all of their children went to school and went to high school and graduated. All of them did, but many of his grandchildren didn't get a chance to go to college. So my collegiate experience, I wanted to have something where I honored his experience as a man of color growing up in America in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, because racism in the South at that time was very brutal, and many people died, and their stories were never told. He was one of the ones that survived, and he had to work very, very hard to take care of his family. Well, he was a mechanic by trade, but he had a landscaping business on the side. So he would work all day, and then he would come home and change, and then he would go out and he would clean the yards of the wealthy white people that lived in the neighborhood, because those were the people that could give him work. The story I tell is an experience that happened to us where we actually go and cut the grass of the bank. He had an account for a bank. It was about 2 acres, and the sun was very hot. It was in August, and I had the push lawnmower, and he had one on the other side. And And we worked very hard that day. And while we were in the truck, waiting to get paid, I'm actually observing him having conversation, a dialogue with the bank manager. And it doesn't seem to be going the way he anticipated. Fine, he's arguing price, money. He gets back in the car, he doesn't say a word. I'm waiting for some exchange, waiting for him to explain to me what happened. It doesn't happen. Years later, at my grandfather's funeral, he died in 1993. I tell this story. It's the custom in my family when someone passes, after the funeral is over, we have a big feast and we honor that person and we tell stories. And you know, I'm one of the youngest, so I tell my story of my grandfather and how I thought what restraint he held, how great a man he was for holding this restraint. Here this man was cheating him, and yet he didn't do anything to defend himself or physically get involved. My uncles and my older cousins laughed at me. Apparently this was something that he did for all of us. The same bank, the same man, year after year, because he wanted to show us what not to do in business. So that's the gist of Granddaddy, and I'm very proud that that was accepted, because again, that was such a personal story and such a heartfelt experience that I went through and I experienced, and I was able to put it in words, and it was accepted.